What up, Sparky? It's May, and that means it's National Electrical Safety Month. And it just so happens that this May, the new Nfpa 70E is out right now. And it came so quick, some people on LinkedIn are still posting coming soon. Now in this video, we're gonna do a high-level view of the new edition. We're gonna go through the numbers, the global changes, and do a little preview of what's coming later in this video series. Now, real quick, if you actually want to get sharp on 70E and Arc Flash and not just check a box, the on-demand training library from Phillips at Brainfiller is what I point people to. That's what I use, as well as the NFPA's direct resources. Now, Jim is the founder of Brainfiller, the vice chair of IEEE 1584 Arc Flash standard, technical committee member of NFPA 70E, and chair of the PCIC safety subcommittee. So he knows what he's talking about. His courses are on demand, so you can fit them in as you have time to get them done. And let's just say the link's in the description on this one. And it's an affiliate link, so I earn a small commission if you sign up, full disclaimer. But even if you don't make it to my link and you just want good electrical training, just remember Brainfiller, Jim Phillips, Arc Flash Safety. Just go Google them directly if you want. Check out Jim's resources. All right, well, let's get started. So here's where we are. The 2027 edition of Nfpa 70E was issued by the Standards Council on April 16th, 2026, with an effective date of May 6, 2026. About a week ago at the time I'm recording this. And it seems like it slipped past a lot of people in the industry. Part of the surprise is timing. NFPA's NITMAM process, Notice of Intent to Make a Motion process, usually adds some time to the back end of the cycle. See, proper NITMAM submissions would be certified and addressed at the technical meeting in June. That would be next month, but there were 0 this cycle. And when there are 0 certified NITMAMs, the standard is classified as a consent standard. And then it bypasses that need to be addressed at that technical meeting, so it goes straight to the Standards Council for issuance. So what does all that mean? Basically, nobody had any issues with it, so it got issued early. Now, if you blinked or you had it on your schedule to address after the June meeting, you might have missed the release. The good news is I've spent the last few weeks walking the 2024 edition and the 2027 edition side by side, page by page, so I could sum it up for you. So we're walking through every article and annex, bringing you as much of the why behind each change that I can, or just my experience or opinion on it. Now, this is the first video, so we're gonna just hit the broad strokes. In future videos, we'll take the time to dive deeper into those changes that really deserve some depth. Okay, let's kick this off with some numbers. 259 public inputs. That's the count of formal proposals submitted at the start of the cycle by anyone. Committee members, industry, code instructors, and even electricians who decided to chime in. 104 first revisions. That's the count of proposals the technical committee actually approved at the first ballot stage. Then the public got another swing at it. 212 public comments, followed by 186 second revisions and more than 100 NFPA manual of style and NEC style manual changes. That's pure editorial stuff or structural formatting of the publication. That means paragraphs broken into lists, titles added to subsections, and numbering cleanup. So when you see a lot of highlighted changes, but the text may read the same as the 2024, odds are those are MOS changes or style manual changes. For comparison, Mike Holt just released his NEC 2026 changes book. So I'm pulling this number out of there. The NEC cycle had 3,933 public inputs, almost 15 times the volume of the 70E. That's because the NEC affects every installation, every device, virtually every building. The 70E is narrower. It affects how people work around electrical hazards. It's a smaller standard, Smaller comment volume, but every change matters because every change can affect how someone goes home at the end of the day. So those are the numbers. Now let's get to what actually changed. We'll start the way the standard itself starts, with the origins page. See, Nfpa 70E, like the NEC, publishes its origins page at the front of every edition. And it tells you what changed, who changed it, and how the cycle ran. So here's what the 2027 origins tells us and kind of how the cycle stacks up. NFPA themselves told us in the 2027 forward what they consider headline changes. And I'm going to read a quote directly because this is the committee's own framing, not mine, not some blog. This is the NFPA's own statement. Many 2027 revisions were editorial to align with the revised manual of style. Titles of several articles and sections were revised to better state the subject matter. Article 130 calls for an additional person to be present when justified energized work is required under the energized work permit. DC and battery requirements were clarified, revised, added to Chapter 1 and Chapter 3. The option for solely using a supplier's declaration of conformity for ARC-rated PPE has been removed. Chapter 3 articles were reorganized to group DC hazards and to group AC hazards. That's the whole game in one paragraph. 6 globally important things changed. Now, let's briefly go through each one. 1. Style cleanup. Paragraphs got broken into lists, subsections got titles. It's easier to read and easier to audit. 2. Article and section titles got renamed. Some big ones. Article 105 went from application of safety-related work practices and procedures to employer and employee responsibilities. Article 90.3 got changed from workplaces covered and not covered to scope of the standard. 3. The additional person rule. This is a big one. The new 130.2A2, when an energized electrical work permit specifies electric shock or arc flash PPE, you now need a second person, and they need to be trained per 110.4C1, which is emergency response. And that also includes contact release, which are ways of dealing with someone who's being shocked. Not just CPR or first aid. They need to be present at the work, and they need to be outside the bigger of the limited approach boundary or the arc flash boundary. We need them to stay safe to do the rescuing. 4. DC and battery requirements. Big expansion. New Article 310 just for DC electrical hazards. New Article 360 with a brand new battery sectionalizing framework. A whole new way to control battery work safely because batteries can't truly be de-energized. New Article 370 for EDLCs or supercapacitors. 5. PPE suppliers' declaration of conformity as a standalone option for PPE requirements is gone. That was deleted as a standalone option for ARC-rated PPE compliance. You now need either a registered quality management system plus accredited lab testing plus the SDOC, or third-party certification. And existing PPE is grandfathered. 6. Chapter 3, special equipment. Had some renumbering. Capacitors moved from Article 360 to Article 320. Batteries moved from 320 to 360. Electrolytic cells moved from 310 to 350, and lasers got removed entirely. And we got 3 new articles: DC hazards, EDLCs, and the brand new Article 380 for photovoltaic systems. Most of the cycle's energy went into those 6 categories. And remember, the style manual updates basically touch every article. The technical changes cluster around DC systems, battery work, and the energized work permit framework. Here are some topics that I'm hoping to cover that I think are important for the worker and the industry. The additional person debate, 130.282. Two prominent voices in the industry, both highly credentialed, both deeply involved with the standard, they disagree on this rule. One supports it as an emergency response improvement, and the other opposes it in detail with a handful of reasons, or considerations as to why. And I'd like to walk through both sides of that argument and show you exactly when this rule is triggered and when it doesn't, and let you kind of understand the trade-offs there. Absence of current testing, 120.5B6 and 120.6 exception 3. Brand new requirements. When absence of voltage testing alone doesn't confirm that a circuit is de-energized, like in current-driven circuits or motor circuits with regen or maybe transformer secondaries or shared neutrals, you now have to use additional testing methods, including testing the absence of current. We'll talk about scenarios and circuits that this affects and maybe what tools you'll need and why non-contact capacitive testers are not a valid absence of voltage test instrument, at least below 1,000 volts, and the standard actually now has some information on that. Annex K and the closed door arc flash trade-off. This is the one I'm probably the most excited about. So Annex K, general categories of electrical hazards, got a major rewrite. The old vaporized copper expansion theory of arc blast pressure, NFPA walked that back. The new explanation is that pressure builds inside of the enclosure fails, parts get ejected, and the doors blow off the hinges. Workers get hit by, the flying parts or the enclosure components. That changes how you think about closing a breaker with the door open versus closed. Both, with appropriate PPE on, of course, and the consideration that is the line of fire prevention when you're remote racking or you're just deciding to close a breaker. So I'm really excited about that one. There's a lot of cool things to talk about there. Battery sectionalizing, Article 360, 5 separate public inputs drove this. Chemical assessment, contact thermal, electric shock, arc flash, and lower risk work condition framework. There's a lot that touches battery work procedures. So telecom, data center, UPS, renewable energy folks, you'll want to look out for that one. The brand new Article 380, photovoltaic systems. First time 70E has a dedicated PV article. With the explosion of the utility scale and rooftop solar stuff, this fills a gap that was overdue. It had PV stuff in it before, but now we have its own chapter. So we'll cover the new requirements for risk assessment, before connector manipulation, the requirement to verify no load current before disconnecting, and the philosophy of continuously energized panels. So solar installers, O&M crews, decommissioning teams, you're gonna wanna pay attention to that one too. Article 100 definitions. 4 new defined terms, 3 deleted, including competent person, which is gonna affect every safety program that referenced it. Several substantive rewrites, accessible, building, luminaire, ground stick. We'll cover those too. And we'll also go over Article 110, including the new electrical hazard exists trigger for electrical safe work condition and the explicit qualified for some tasks but not for others, clarification for qualified persons. Article 120, including the new establish and verify language. Article 130, every change to the most changed article in the standard. Chapter 2, maintenance and every annex change. Remember, the 2027 edition is on NFPA link right now. I ordered the book, but I'm sure they have to finish the layout and get the printers going and all that stuff before I'll ever see it. But anyone who works under the 70E should be looking at NFPA link right now. If you want to dig into the committee record, the public inputs, first revisions, public comments, second revisions, all the stuff that drove the changes, those are all available through NFPA's portal, not link. You might have to have a membership to dive deep on those, but they're not on link. they're on the portal. One more thing, while we're on resources, Jim Phillips, who I mentioned at the top of the video, has a major changes webinar coming out next month in June. If you want to hear about it straight from someone on NFPA 70E technical committee, that's where to do it. The link's in the description. Last, and I hate doing this part, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, do all the things, because there will be more episodes coming. And just one more reminder, the 2027 70E is effective now. The rules have already changed, but I really want to tell you to take a break, get off your screen, get off the socials, go outside, do some cool stuff, okay? And remember, stay safe out there.